नानाशास्त्रविचारेकनिपुनो सह धर्मसंस्थापकं लोकानां हितकारिणो त्रिभुवने महनयो शरण्याकरो राधाकृष्णपदारविन्द्रभजना नन्देन मत्तालिकयो वन्दे रूपसनातनो रघुजुगो श्रीजीवगोपालको वन्दे रूपसनातनो रघुजुगो श्रीजीवगोपालको. Hare Krishna, everyone. So we welcome you all for our Bhakti Shastri discussion, wherein we are studying from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, or the Nectar of Devotion. And we are going to resume our discussion from chapter 7. We covered first 5 or 6 items in our last discussion. We are just starting the 64 Angas, the elaboration of the 64 Angas of Bhakti, which was shortlisted by Srila Rupa Goswami. From which book? From where did Srila Rupa Goswami prepare this list of 64 Angas? What was his reference point? Hari Bhakti Vilas. From there, he has shortlisted, and chapter 6 introduces us uh, just like a table of content to the 64 principles of Angas, and chapter 7 to chapter 13 elaborates on the 64 Angas. And these are very, very interesting, very important for discussion. And with your kind permission, I'll just start from chapter 7, from the beginning. And I'll not spend too much time on what we've discussed, but we'll do that briefly. But before that, let's quickly go through our shloka recitation. Let's take a look at the shlokas that we have as part of our the syllabus for our students to memorize. Everyone together. Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadhyanavrtam anukulyena krishnanu bhaktiruttama sarvapade vinirmuktam tatparatvena nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhaktiruchyate अतः श्री कृष्ण नामादि न भवेद्ग्राह्यमिन्द्रिये सेवन्मुखे हि जिह्वादौ स्वयं देवा स्फुरति यदः अनासक्तस्य या विषयान् यथाहारम् उपयुञ्जतः निर्बन्धकृष्णसम्बन्धि युक्तं वैराग्यमुच्यते. Hare Krishna. So today is the 12th lesson on our study of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which is from chapter 7, and we will try to cover up to chapter 9. If we cannot complete the chapter 9, we'll at least do whatever we can discuss. So to begin with, chapter 6 introduced us to the 64 Angas of Bhakti. And what are these? Hari Bhakti Vilasesya Bhakti Angani Lakshashaha Kintu Tani Prasidhani Nirdishyante Yathamati. In the Hari Bhakti Vilas, innumerable Angas of Bhakti are mentioned. Among those, the most famous ones will be explained to the best of my judgment. So, from Hari Bhakti Vilas, Srila Rupa Goswami is giving reference. And I gave an introduction to Hari Bhakti Vilas in the last discussion. And like this, there are 64 items of sadhana bhakti. We discussed that in terms of action, pravritti, nivritti, do's and don'ts. And then there are items of sadhana. And in that, there are 5 most effective items. I have discussed this, so I'll not speak about it. And what are the 5 most important angas, which will be discussed ahead? So very, very important. This is probably another verse that we can memorize for ourselves. Sadhu Sangha Nama Kirtan Bhagavat Shravana Mathuravasa Srimurtira Shraddhaya Sevana. So after describing 64 items, not 64 items actually, these are the items from 60, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64. These are the last 5 items where Srila Rupa Goswami says, There are different angas, but what are the most important angas? If these are taken care, everything is taken care. Sadhu Sangha, association of sadhus, Nama Kirtan, chanting the holy names of the Lord, Bhagavad Shranam, Shravana, everyday hearing of Shrimad Bhagavatam or reading, Mathuravas, residing in a holy place, and Shri Murtira, Shraddhaya Sevan, which is engagement in service. A, B, C, D, E. This is an English equivalent acronym for this. E for engaging in service, which refers to DT service. Let's take a look at it. So let's begin with first one. We discussed it, so I'll be quick with this. Guru Pad Ashraya, taking shelter of Guru, the very first principle of a spiritual life. You know, uh, when does actually Bhagavad Gita begins? If somebody asks you a question, there can be different perspectives. Somebody can say, Bhagavad Gita begins with Dhritarashtra Vacha, but actually that is not Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita means the words spoken by the Lord. And when did Krishna begin to speak? Effectively, Krishna began to speak from second chapter, verse number 8. So what was prior to that? Prior to that comes Shishasyam Sadimam Tvam Prapannam. The very first thing that happened, which allowed Krishna to speak, or the very first thing that happened, which allowed Arjuna to receive spiritual instruction, was his surrender to Guru. Shishyasayam Sadimam Tvam Prapannam. So, among all the items, the very first item that Srila Rupa Goswami highlights is surrender to Guru, taking shelter of Guru. There's a lot of sound coming from inside. It's too loud. Either the doors are not loud or devotees can be suggested to other room. So, Srila Rupa Goswami list, I'm reading from the presentation. The most crucial item first. Following this one principle opens the door to all 63 other items of sadhana, because a spiritual master will instruct one about the execution and significance of them all. So bhakti begins, a spiritual life begins with accepting a bona fide guru, like this. And then this is a quotation given about Tasmad Gurum Prapadyeta. Therefore, Gurum Prapadyeta, one should take shelter of the Guru. Jigyasu Shreya Uttamam, one who is inquisitive on Shreya Uttamam to attain the highest perfection. Shabde Pareja Nishnatam. What is the qualification of such spiritual master? Shabde Pareja Nishnatam is completely bathed with the spiritual consciousness. Brahmani Upashamashrayam, and one who has taken a complete shelter of the absolute truth. So this particular verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 11th Canto talks about one should take shelter, one should surrender to Guru. What are the qualifications of that Guru? Shabde Pareja Nishnatam. He's completely, what do you say, surcharged with spiritual sound vibration. And second, Brahmani Upashamashrayam. This is almost like, Tadvidi Pranipatena Pariprashnena Sevaya Upadeshanti Te Gnanam Gnanina Tattva. This is Tattva Darshana. One who has seen the Tattva, who knows Tattva, can give you or introduce you to Tattva. That's the point here. So, Guru Pad Ashraya. And then different quotations are given about the importance of accepting spiritual master. We discussed that, so I'm just giving introduction moving forward. And then I hope you're on the book. Please flip through the pages in your book also. That's the first item, accepting the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. And then the second item, on those you can write down the item numbers, so it will help you to relate, 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. Then the second item is Tasmat Krishna Dikshadi Shikshanam, accepting initiation from the spiritual master and receiving Shiksha. And then after initiation, acquiring knowledge, like this. So, what is more important, Diksha or Shiksha? Actually, Shiksha is the most important thing. Then why Diksha is emphasized? Because after Diksha also, what are you doing? Shikshanam. And before Diksha is also doing Shikshanam. So question comes, if Shiksha is the lifeline of a devotee, then what is the need of a Diksha? And the example is given by Srila Prabhupada. It's just like when we registered with the university, then we become a bona fide student and we are qualified to write exam. And then we get a degree and that degree has a value. Similarly, when we take Diksha, then we become a bona fide disciple or a member of a parampara. And then, mantra actually has to be given through Diksha. Then mantra also carries its weightage and importance only through Diksha. So there are different aspects of Diksha, like the point. So Diksha and Shiksha has to go on. Then third thing which is mentioned is serving the spiritual master with faith and confidence. Acharya ma vijaniyam. 11th canto, Lord Shri Krishna says, a spiritual master or Acharya is not different than I. He should be served in the same way as a devotee will serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All right. We discussed the point, this thing, last time we made a point. Service to Guru with respect. How do we serve Guru when we don't even have a chance to meet Guru? So in our ISKCON framework, we serve Guru in Parampara system, which means we serve Guru. There are two, as you know, ISKCON disciple course makes this point very clear. Every disciple within ISKCON, you call it as organization or institution, ultimately everyone is sheltered under Srila Prabhupada. Ritesh, yeah, you take care of the slide. People will get disconnected. What I was saying. So the hierarchy of our connection with our Guru Parampara is we have a Diksha line and we have a Shiksha line. Diksha line is from our spiritual master. Shiksha line could also be from spiritual master, but we also have Shiksha line from senior managers or service authorities under whom we render service. And both of these ultimately align with Srila Prabhupada, who is the Shiksha Guru, not only for us, also for our mentors, also for our spiritual master. Like that, we have a connection. So, how do we serve our spiritual master? If in case we are not in direct touch with spiritual master, so we serve the local authorities. And how do we understand who is a local authority? Ideally, Srila Prabhupada created a system where almost every place would have some temple. So be part of the local community, connect with the local temple, and there we serve. And through that, our services becomes bona fide like that. It's recognized and it's easy to identify. Therefore, those who stay away from the community or a temple community like that, and then all their inspiration, all that happens online. But that's not really which gives strength. Otherwise, then they have to create a community around them. Then they have to preach and they have to make devotees, and then they create a community. So that's the whole idea, service to Guru with respect here. Then the fourth point, which is mentioned in the book, is following in the footsteps of saintly persons. So last time when we were talking about this point, it is said sadhu vartmanu vartanam, following the footsteps. Now we have shiksha, we have diksha, we have two different personalities guiding our life. How to do or what to do, or how to reconcile if both of them apparently gives contradictory instructions. And I gave an example. Imagine if a special master visits a particular community and he inspires all his disciples that I would be very happy if you engage yourself in book distribution in marathon. But then the temple president who acts as your service authority, and he comes and says, Prabhu, yeah, that's a very good idea. But what to do? Our pujari has fallen sick. We don't have a pujari. I would like you to not pursue the idea of book distribution, but come and take care of DTs. What do I do? Now, sometimes when we don't have a clarity on the subject matter, it at times leads to little fanatism because scriptures really highlights the importance of guru, but never says only about Diksha Guru. But we think guru means only Diksha Guru. So then it can lead to immature understanding. So imagine one say, no, I am supposed to follow the instruction of my guru. My guru have told me, only to book distribution, and you have no means to really connect back to him. Imagine you saying no. Do you know who's getting affected? DTs. You are saying no to the service to the DTs. Now, the question can be simply asked: would your spiritual master would be pleased that you're not serving the DTs when that's been asked? It's not that somebody has told you now you go open Govindas and distribute gulab jamun and make money and bring it to the temple construction. That's a different thing. Direct DT service I talked about. So we were making a point on that. How do we reconcile? So in that case, we follow the local authority, and if we have an opportunity to connect back to our spiritual master, and we express this is a situation, what should be done, and then they need to reconcile among themselves, but not to take any extreme ends. Second thing, which we didn't discuss in the from Prabhupada's example, when it is a sadhu vartmanu vart, following the rules according to scriptures as approved by Acharyas, Prabhupada quotes, Srila Rupa Goswami quotes the example of Buddha. He said, even the incarnation of the Lord, if he comes and speaks against the scriptures, then we reject him. And that is the time when this very famous shloka has been quoted by Srila Rupa Goswami. Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatra Vidhim Vina Aikantaki Harer Bhaktir Utpateva Kalpate. Shruti, Smriti, and Purana and Pancharatra Vidhim Vina, which means Vidhi means the rules and regulation, Vidhi which are given, Vina means with, beyond it. Aikantaki Harer Bhaktir Utpateva Kalpate. Now, if one does not adhere to Shruti Shastra, Smriti Shastra, Puranas, and Pancharatras, one so called Aikantaki Harir Bhakti, one so called devotion service is nothing but Utpatyeva Kalpate, is just a disturbance to the society. Like that he quotes. So we accept Buddhaji to be incarnation, but we do not accept his philosophy because it was against Shruti, Smriti, Purana, and Pancharatra. That's the point. Moving forward, Sadharma Pracha, making a meaningful inquiry. That is, inquiry about the real duties of life. I had raised a question last time. Dhritarashtra also made an inquiry to Vidura, not once, many times. Arjuna also made an inquiry to Krishna. What was the difference in both of the inquiries? It's not only Arjuna said, Karpanye doshupahata sabhava prachami tvam dharma. Samudha Cheta. It's not that Arjuna have expressed. If you read Mahabharata, you will see Dhritarashtra also pleading Vidura. Vidur, my dear friend, my dear counselor. He was his advisor. I am so much struck by my affection for my son. I know that it is totally wrong and it is destroying everything. I don't know what to do. Please help me. Please guide me. Like this, Dhritarashtra would say. Only thing that I didn't read about him that he making a statement, शिष्यास्यम साधिमाम त्वाम प्रपन्नम. उसने केवल इतना नहीं बोला, बट स्टार्टिंग की दो लाइन जो कहा था ना, मुझे बताओ मेरे लिए क्या सर्वश्रेष्ठ है, जैसे अर्जुन ने कहा है, वैसे धृतराष्ट्र ने एक बार नहीं 50 बार बोला होगा. पर विदुर जी ने, भाई वो he is a pure devotee of the Lord, wouldn't he have instructed? He would have instructed Dhritarashtra. He instructed, but कुछ परिवर्तन धृतराष्ट्र में नहीं आया. So we were making a point. What was the difference? It said make an inquiry. So what's the difference in the inquiry of Arjuna and inquiry of Dhritarashtra?
Hare Krishna. I think Dhritarashtra was expecting to hear what he wants, whereas
Okay.
Arjuna was ready to hear the instructions of Lord Krishna and
He was ready to hear. What does it mean ready to hear?
surrender.
That's it. As I already answered that. Dhritarashtra said everything, but he never said Shishya Syam Sadhimam Tvam Prapannam. Prapannam means surrender. मैं शरणागति के लिए तैयार हूँ. That Dhritarashtra never said. So you will come across many times people ask questions and they ask the same question to everyone, but there is never expression of Shanagrati. So when it is said Sadharma Pracha, inquire about the real duties of life, then it should also be accompanied with our ability to follow through those instructions. And then those instructions carry weightage. So that's the sixth point and fifth point, sorry. And then the next point comes being prepared to give up everything material for Krishna's satisfaction. I'm reading from the book. In the Padma Purana, it is stated for one who has given up his material sense enjoyment and has accepted the principles of devotion service, the opulence of Vishnu Loka is awaiting. Being prepared to give up everything material for Krishna's satisfaction. Prana, Artha, Dhya, Vacha. Then comes seventh, residing in a sacred place. Anyone online would like to read what Prabhupada have written in his English commentary? Residing in a sacred place. Let's read out. Then we'll discuss a little bit on it.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. In the Skand Puran, it is also said that for a person who has lived in Dwarka for 6 months, for 1 month, or even for one fortnight, there is awaiting elevation to the Vaikunt Lokal, and all the prophets of Sarupya Mukti, the privilege of having the same four-handed bodily features as Narayan. In the Brahma Puran, it is said the transcendental significance of Purushottam Kshetra, which is the 80 square mile field of Lord Jagannath, cannot be properly described. Even the demigods from higher planetary systems see the inhabitants of this Jagannath Puri as having exactly the same bodily features possessed by one in Vaikunt. That is, the demigods see the inhabitants of Jagannath Puri as being four-handed. When there was a meeting of great sages at Nemi Sharani, Sud Goswami was reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, and the importance of the Ganges was stated as follows: the waters of the Ganges are always carrying the flavors of tulsi offered at the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, and as such, the waters of the Ganges are ever flowing, spreading the glories of Lord Krishna. Wherever the waters of the Ganges are flowing, all will be sanctified, both externally and internally.
Just like the sages of Naimisharanya had the fortune to sit at the banks of Ganges, the residents of Hinjawadi have the benediction to sit at the banks of Mula River, which is always dried up, except for the rainy season. you know, uh, just like the residents of Mathura, Dwarka, Jagannath Puri are blessed to receive the opulence of Vaikuntha. We are also not in such an unfortunate situation because we are just right next to Dehu, the birthplace of the Sant Tukaram, which is hardly 15 kilometers from here. Yet it does not justify our situation. I'm just trying to speak something to inspire. What does it mean when it is said residing in a sacred place? What about all of us city dwellers who are very far away from any such auspicious places? I would like to quote what I had quoted before also, a particular purport from Srila Prabhupada's writing from Chaitanya Charitamrita. So, all right, somebody would like to read what is written on the screen? Okay. Yeah, now you can see somebody would like to read online. Okay, guys, you can keep your hands up so I can call upon those who would like to read. Till the time, I'll continue. Sometimes materialists, forgetting the pastimes of Radha, Krishna, Krishna, Balram, go to Vrindavan, accept the land's spiritual facilities, and engage in material activities. This is against the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Prakrit Sahijyas proclaim themselves Vrajvasis or Dhamvasis, but they mainly engage in sense gratification. Thus, they become more and more implicated in the materialistic way of life. Now, this is important. The eternal Vrajvasis, like Swarup Damodar, did not even come to Vrindavan Dham. Shri Pundarik Vidyanidhi, Shri Haridas Thakur, Srivas Pandit Shivananda Sen, Shri Ramananda Rai, Shri Sikhi Mahiti, Shri Madhavi Devi, Gadadhar Pandit Goswami never visited Vrindavan Dham. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur points out that we have no authorized documents stating that these exalted personalities visited Vrindavan. Can I be put somewhere else, not covering Prabhupada, please? And then, nonetheless, we find many non devotees, Mayavadi sannyasi, Prakrit Sahijyas, fruitive workers, mental speculators, and many others with material motives going to Vrindavan to live. Many of these people go there to solve their economic problems by becoming beggars. Although anyone living in Vrindavan somehow or other is benefited, the real Vrindavan is appreciated only by a pure devotee. Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena. When one has purified eyes, he can see that Sri Vrindavan and the original Goloka Vrindavan planet in the spiritual sky are identical. And then Prabhupada concludes. Srila Narottam Das Thakur, Srinivas Acharya, Srila Jagannath Das Baba Ji Maharaj, Sri Bhagwan Das Baba Ji Maharaj, Srila Gaur Kishore Das Baba Ji Maharaj, and later Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur of Calcutta, always engaged in Nama Bhajan and certainly did not live anywhere but Vrindavan. They didn't live in Vrindavan. Presently, the members, this is for all of us now. Presently, the members of the Hare Krishna movement. Where did Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur departed this world from? Here. Presently, the members of the Hare Krishna movement throughout the world live in materially opulent cities such as London, New York, for a lot of reasons, Pune, Delhi, Hyderabad, Bombay. Okay? I'm just replacing those words. However, we are satisfied with following in the footsteps of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and other acharyas because we live in the temples of Radha Krishna and continuously hold Harinam Sankirtan, the chanting of Hare Krishna. We also consequently live in Vrindavan and nowhere else. We are also following in the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by attempting to construct a temple in Vrindavan for our disciples throughout the world to visit. Madhya Leela 16 chapter 281 verse puppet. So the point that has to be highlighted here, Prabhupada says, you can be in any part of the world. My temples that I have built, Hare Krishna temples, ISKCON temples, are not less than Vrindavan. Why not less than Vrindavan? If in those temples Nam Sankirtan continues, then that is Vrindavan conscious. What happens in Vrindavan? Radhe Radhe. Everyone is chanting the name of Srimati Radharani or Krishna's name. Similarly, our ISKCON temples are resounded every day as much as possible with the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. So, what city dwellers have to do? They need to move closer to the temple community, and then it fulfills this criteria. All right, moving forward. Point number 8. Vayavahareshu sarveshu yavad arthanu vartita. Accepting all what is necessary in dealing with body. So, two things are mentioned by Prabhupada in his writing. I'll not have the time to look at it, but if you look at the paragraph yourself, can you take care? Somebody has got unmuted. Manage that. So, Prabhupada says, well, accepting only what is necessary, I will read out from the book itself. We'll not take a look at the slide, we'll take a look at the book. In the third line, it is mentioned the purport is that one should not neglect following the principles of devotion service, nor should one accept the rulings of devotion service which are more than what he can easily perform. So, Prabhupada here explains accepting only what is necessary, that is in relation to one's bodily needs and spiritual abilities. Prabhupada says, but if one is not even able to chant 16 rounds, then he must make it up the next day. He must be sure to keep his vow. If he does not strictly follow this out, then he is sure to be negligent. That is offensive in the service of the Lord. And if we encourage offenses, we shall not be able to make progress in devotional service. And then Prabhupada says, it is better if one fixes up a regulative principle according to his own ability. So the idea is accepting only what is necessary in dealing with the body. We'll see next is will be about following Ekadashi or other vratas. According to our ability, we should do things. And when we decide and when we take a sankalpa, or what you call in English as vow, then we should fulfill that. We should not break that. Then such, breaking of the sankalpas of the vows actually leads to committing seva aparad or, nama aparad and whatnot. That obstruct our progress in Krishna consciousness. That's the point. So accept only what is necessary in dealing with the body. If let's say your body is not keeping well, you're diseased, you're sick, and then it comes, let's say, fasting. Then fast as much as you can. Of course, I don't mean to say that we don't fast with grains. You can fast with grains, but at least take Ekadashi Prasadam. Maybe somebody is doing Nirjal. Don't compete with that individual. Because the idea and the objective of any fasting or vrata is to be able to remember, to cultivate remembrance of Lord. And how would you cultivate remembrance of Lord at our situation when we are not yet overcome bodily consciousness? If our body get disturbed, how much we get disturbed because of it? And if it is disturbed because of the body, then just do the needful for the body and move forward. That's the idea. Do what is possible, how much ever. Observing fasting on Ekadashi, that's the ninth point. So Prabhupada said the basic principle is not just to fast, I'm reading from the book, but to increase one's faith and love for Govinda. And Prabhupada says the real reason for observing fasting Ekadashi is to minimize the demands of the body and to engage our time in the service of the Lord by chanting or performing similar service. The best thing to do on fasting days is two things: remember the pastimes and to hear his holy names constantly. And then comes the next point: offering respect to banyan trees. Somebody would like to read? Mother Priyanka, go ahead, your hand is up. The 10th point: offering respect to the banyan trees. Read that paragraph.
In this Gan Purana, it is directed that a devotee should offer water to the Tulsi plant and Amla tree. He should offer respect to the cows and to Brahmanas, and should serve the Vaishnavas by offering them respectful obeisances and meditate upon them. All of this process will help the devotee to diminish the reaction of his past sinful activities.
All right, so this is said it should be done. Tulsi plant, we always do that in the morning. So every devotee should have Tulsi worship at their home. All right, great. Then the next point comes presentation, please, again, is Sangatyago Vidurena Bhagavad Vimukhe Jane, giving up the association of those opposed to the Lord. And there are two kinds of categories of people are mentioned. Prabhupada says in the first paragraph, two kinds of non-devotees. What? Which is against the supremacy of Krishna. And another class is too materialistic. In other words, those who are after Bhoga Aishwarya and those who are against the supremacy of the Lord are called a Vaishnava. And their association should be strictly avoided. And then Prabhupada go ahead and further goes ahead and he talks about very interesting thing. Let's see. Second paragraph. Somebody please read. Mother Priyanka, go ahead. Read the second paragraph of giving up the company of non-devotees in the
Hare Krishna
Katyayana
Prabhupada.
Samhita. Mhm.
In the Katyayana Samhita, it is stated that even if one is forced to live in a cage of iron or in the midst of a blazing fire, he should accept his disposition rather than live with non-devotees who are who are through and through against the supremacy of the Lord. Similarly, in the Vishnu Rahasya, there is a statement to the effect that one should prefer to embrace a snake, a tiger, or an alligator rather than associate with persons who are worshippers of various demigods and who are impelled by material desires.
Hare Krishna.
In-
So, how many of you ready to
Hare
embrace a tiger or a snake? You know. So, Shastra is quoted in Katyayana Samhita. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur had a famous statement. It is better to live with a lion than to live with a non-devotee. Which means it's better to sacrifice your body than to sacrifice your consciousness. I hope you're getting the gist over here. You know, I'm willing to undergo bodily discomfort rather than compromise my the purity of consciousness. That is what it means by embracing a snake over embracing a non-devotee. Along with that, Devta worshippers are also included with that. Why Devta worshippers are included? Because all their actions are impelled by Kam Vasana. And their association will also develop that same desire, and we might approach the same devtas. How many of us get influenced if, in case any of your devotee have recently gone to an astrologer and he felt उस astrologer का जो suggestion था, that solution really worked well? How many of you think, oh, I have also so many problems, I should also consider an astrologer? How many of you have that experience? You don't have to raise your hand, but how many of you think we will get affected by it? Right? And somebody says, you know what? I was having a headache problem. I called up astrologer. He told me some tantra mantra, everything worked out. And you say, oh yeah, I'm having so much stomach problem. I should also go to astrologer early. I'm just joking, but I'm just saying, I'm just saying. So that's the idea how we get affected by the association. That's the point mentioned here. And the third paragraph, Prabhupada explains why Devta worshippers are also considered to be non-devotees. That you can read for yourself like this. Now, why? Because they have all this kind of material desires. How can they be devotee? Devotee means their desire is to serve. But a non-devotee means who wants to take service. In that way, Devta worshippers are also non-devotee. And the fourth paragraph then was celebrated. If you uh, if I say who are the protagonists of Prabhupada's writings, who Prabhupada has spoken the most? Protagonist means the main characters. Any novel, any book will have a protagonist, the main character. If I ask you, who are the protagonists in Prabhupada books? One is Krishna.
Mayavadi.
अरे तुम कृष्णा से पहले मायावती को बोल रहे हो यार okay, okay, yes. So first is Krishna, and of course Mayavati, right? They go head to head. So how can you not have a discussion among non-devotee category of Mayavadis? So next paragraph is about Mayavadis. Then Prabhupada Mayavadis को कहते हैं झाड़ू पोछे से पिटाई करते हुए अगले पैराग्राफ में. Mayavadis say that one may worship any form of the Lord. It doesn't matter because one reaches the same destination anyway. But it is clearly stated in Bhagavad Gita that those who are worshippers of Devtas will ultimately reach only the planet of the Devtas. Like that is been described here. All right, now comes an interesting subject matter. Let's take a look. This would be 12th item, and it is said the photo speaks for itself. Not accepting unfit disciples, constructing many temples, or reading many books. How do we do? Actually, let me just take a look at the shloka, then we'll go and read from the book. This is a very interesting discussion. Na shishyanubadhanita grantha naiva bhayasad bahun na vyakhya upayunjita narambhan arabhet kuchit. Seventh canto, 13th chapter, verse number 8. A sannyasi must not present allurements of material benefits to gather many disciples, nor should he unnecessarily read many books or give discourses as a means of livelihood. That's the reason why Prabhupada had an issue with Katha Vachaks. He must never attempt to increase material opulences unnecessarily. Disciples, book, Katha for livelihood, opulences like this. All right. Let's come back to what Prabhupada have written here and then we'll take up the discussion. Mother Poonam, please read. Another stricture is that a person may have many disciples.
Hare Krishna. Non-accepting unfit disciple, constructing many temples or reading many books. Another stricture is that a person may have many disciples, but he should not act in such a way that he will be obliged to any of them for some particular action or some favor. And one should also not be very enthusiastic about constructing new temples, nor should one be enthusiastic about reading various types of books, save and except the ones which lead to the advancement of devotional service. Practically, if one very carefully read Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, teachings of Lord Chaitanya, and this Nectar of Devotion, that will give him sufficient knowledge to understand the science of Krishna consciousness. One need not take the trouble of reading other books. In the seventh canto of
Okay,
Srimad
so
Bhagavatam,
just one
10th
second.
chapter,
So, first
yes,
paragraph says, you may have many disciples, but you should not act in such a way or put yourself into such a situation where you're obliged to your disciples' conditions and you have to favor them and fulfill their requirement. That is the first thing. Second thing, one should not very enthusiastic about constructing new temples. अरे इस्कॉन वाले तो हर महीने नए नए मंदिर खोल देते हैं भाई. Yes or no? If you get a copy of Back to Godhead, you will see, every month there is a festival. Abhi Gaur Purnima, then Ram Navami, then Nasima Chaturdashi, Krishna Janmashtami, Radhashtami, Kartik. Some festival keeps going on. And then you'll see along with that festival, there is also new temple opening in Palana Dikana place. And it is mentioned one should not be very enthusiastic about constructing new temples. I mean, what further proof of enthusiasm you need when you're building new temple every month? Just yesterday, Thane temple's photos were published. गौर पूर्णिमा और क्या नाम है ये क्या नहीं कहाँ से कोल्हापुर Kolhapur temple had been there for a long time. Now DT installation would happen. And just previous month, Palghar temple opened. And in April, Rohini temple is opening. More than 100 crore worth project. So one should not be very enthusiastic. So is it mean one should not be very enthusiastic? Means हर हफ्ते मत खोलो, महीने में एक बार खोलो. So what is the meaning? We'll take a look at it. Huh? One should not be very enthusiastic about constructing new temples, nor should be one enthusiastic about reading various types of books. All right, that should be sufficient reading Bhagavad Gita and all that. Then we just read the verse in the next paragraph about the rules for sannyasi. So one who has accepted the sannyasa, mother, you see that in the second paragraph, fourth line. One who has accepted the sannyasa of life is forbidden to accept as a
yes,
disciple anyone who is not fit. Please read from ahead. Okay, Mother Sangeeta, you found it? Please read.
Yes, Prabhu, I find it. One who has accepted the sannyasa order of life is forbidden to accept as a disciple anyone who is not fit. A sannyasi should first of all examine whether a prospective student is sincerely seeking Krishna consciousness. If he is not, he should not be accepted. However, Lord Chaitanya's causeless mercy is such that he advised all bona fide spiritual masters to speak about Krishna consciousness everywhere. Therefore, in the line of Lord Chaitanya, even the sannyasis can speak about Krishna consciousness everywhere. And if someone is seriously inclined to become a disciple, the sannyasi always accept him.
There is
The
one
one
very interesting discussion comes in Bhagavad Gita. So actually, it is mentioned that ideally the principle is one should not accept many disciples. That was the sum and substances. So in the next paragraph, Prabhupada gives the reasoning. What is why sometimes you need to accept more disciples? That's what Prabhupada is going to give reasoning. In Bhagavad Gita, in the third chapter, I believe that's where Krishna says, do not disturb the minds of people by unnecessary, disturbing them. Rather, encourage them with their, level of practice, whatever they can do. In other words, do not just go and speak to them about Krishna consciousness. The third chapter, that verse comes in the middle section. And Prabhupada writes something very interesting in the purport. Now, the Krishna says, do not disturb them. And we go out on the street, innocent creatures, enjoying their smoke or tata chai, and we go and disturb, cause havoc in their smoking pastime or the tea pastime by talking about surrender to Krishna, read Bhagavad Gita. It seems a little bit violation of what Krishna himself saying in Bhagavad Gita. And then in that purport, Prabhupada writes something very interesting. Although Krishna says, do not go and disturb these people, but devotees of the Lord are more compassionate than the Lord. When they see a suffering soul, they cannot sit quietly. They go and disturb him by giving him Krishna consciousness. So there is what you can say, there is a content and then there is an intent. So Krishna said something, but what is an intent is expressed by an acharya. Similarly, now when it is said one should not accept many disciples, I mean, uh, you see, Prabhupada had so many disciples. And in fact, Prabhupada said, I heard, not sure how much, by Kunpati Prabhu is here, maybe he can say that if that is a factual thing or not. I believe I heard somewhere like this that Prabhupada told His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj, you should at least make 50,000 disciples, something like that. I mean, if that is not much, what is more than? you know, Kunpati Prabhu,
He
is
said
that
that you should make. He said you should make as many disciples as possible.
okay? So
It was an
somebody have given a
unlimited.
number to it that, but that's not the actual thing then, right?
So it is an unlimited instruction.
Okay. So number was not put, so maybe somebody has put a number just to help Maharaj to reach some goal. Maybe. Okay. Now, therefore, if you meet somebody whose name is Nimai, Nitai, Gopal, Madhav Das, तो आप समझ जाओ वो कहाँ पे आ रहा है the name list is good like this. I'm just joking. The point. So now Prabhupada in the next paragraph actually explain what is the understanding of this instruction. Please read the next paragraph. We can have somebody else read. Now, Mother Sangeeta, your hand is up. Please read the next paragraph. The one point is that.
The one point is that without increasing the number of disciples, there is no propagation of the cult of Krishna consciousness. Therefore, sometimes even at a risk, a sannyasi in the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu may accept even a person who is not thoroughly fit to become a disciple. Later on, by the mercy of such a bona fide spiritual master, the disciple is gradually elevated. However, if one increases the number of disciples simply for some prestige or false honor, he will surely fall down in the matter of executing Krishna consciousness.
All right. This was about why it is allowed sometimes for the sake of spreading of Krishna conscious culture. Now the next discussion begins about disciples has been clarified about constructing temples. So in the next paragraph, um, it is mentioned from the fourth line in the next paragraph. Prabhupada says, we can see that our Goswamis were not enthusiastic about constructing big temples. Mother Sangeeta, are you around? So if you're there, you can read. However, if somebody comes forward to offer some service, the same reluctant acharyas will encourage the building of costly temples by such servitors. And then Prabhupada gives an example of Srila Rupa Goswami was offered a favor by Maharaj Man Singh. And that's how the most beautiful Shri Radha Govindji's temple was constructed. Now, next paragraph is what we would like to read. So all right, Mother Radha Mandali, please read. So, a bona fide spiritual master.
Hare Krishna. So, a bona fide spiritual master should not personally take any responsibility for constructing temples, But if someone has money and wants to spend it on in the service of Krishna, an acharya like Rupa Goswami may utilize a devotee's money to construct a nice, costly temple for the service of the Lord. Unfortunately, it happens that someone who is not fit to become a spiritual master may approach wealthy persons to contribute for temple constructions. If such money is utilized by unqualified spiritual masters for living comfortably in costly temples without actually doing any preaching work, this is not acceptable. In other words, a spiritual master needn't be very enthusiastic for constructing temple buildings simply in the name of so called spiritual advancement. Rather, his first and foremost activity should be to preach. In this connection, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj recommended that a spiritual master print books. If one has money, instead of constructing costly temples, one should spend his money for the publication of authorized books in different languages for propagating the Krishna consciousness movement.
Hare Krishna. In this line, a very interesting conversation comes with Srila Prabhupada. A disciple asked Srila Prabhupada. Let's take a look at this little snippet of the conversation. This is Srila Prabhupada's in conversation with His Grace Shrutaketi Prabhu. He writes, my god brothers criticize me that I have allowed women to live in our temples. This is not done in India. Only brahmachari can live. But I have become successful because I have made this adjustment. On this side, their Gaudiya mutts are empty. The only time there are people coming is during Gaur Purnima to Mayapur for parikrama. And who is coming for parikrama? Widows. Woman in white. Because I made this adjustment, I was successful. So this is a discussion about principle and detail. So we never compromise on principle, just like, many times Prabhupada was suggested by his leading disciples. Prabhupada ji, we can have hundreds and thousands and millions of followers if we can just adjust the fourth principle. Prabhupada said, no compromise. Like that. So principle is not compromise, but details can, time, place, circumstance according to it, it can vary. Further, Shruti Kriti Prabhu. Prabhupada, how can we tell the difference between making an adjustment and changing a principle? Prabhupada, that takes a little intelligence. Then another conversation that happened was regarding unfit disciples and costly temples. Agun Jwalve, there will be fire. Remember? Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur on a morning walk at Radhakund with Abhay Jarande following behind Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, turned back and told Abhay Jarande, there will be a fire. One day there would be fire in the Calcutta Gaudiya Mutt, and that fire of party interest would spread and destroy. When we were living in a rented house, if we could collect 200 or 300 rupees, we were living very nicely at Ulta Danga. We were happier then, but since we have been given this marble palace in Bagh Bazaar, there is friction between our men. Who will occupy this room? Who will occupy that room? Who will be the proprietor of this room? Everyone is planning in different ways. So here Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is highlighting that how, uh, you know, even leading disciples are fighting about the privileges, about the rooms that we can have like this. How many of you have been to this Bagh Bazaar temple, this place? Is must visit in Calcutta. You'll get to actually really experience what it is. अभी तो काफ़ी डेवलप हो गया उसका neighborhood. That temple even today when you enter, as if you have entered into a different realm altogether. It's so mode of goodness, such a profound place and a very beautiful deities there. We'll come to continue with this discussion here like this. Unfair disciples, costly temples. It would be better to take the marble from the walls and secure money. If I could do this and print books, that would be better. Abhay felt his spiritual master speaking to him in urgency as if asking for help or warning him to avert disaster. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta then said directly to Abhay, Amar Ichha Chila Kichu Bai Karana. I don't know if I'm reading Bengali properly, but nonetheless. I had a desire to print some books. If you ever get money, print books. Standing by Radhakund and beholding his spiritual master, Abhay felt the words deeply enter his own life If you ever get money, print books. Srila Prabhupada, Leelamrita. Now, this is a very important point here. Money, any kind of resources, you know, they have a close connection with the material energy. And our interaction with the material energy should be judged by our seniors based on our adhikar. Am I fit to handle this much burden of dealings with material energy? Can you imagine when this Bhagavad temple was built? It was a Grahastha disciple of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur who sold off everything and constructed this beautiful temple. And he requested a special master that please give me one room. And Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, that room is still, if you go, you'll find it. There is a temple in the courtyard. On the first floor was the room of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And in the ground floor of the temple, where you have a temple, beautiful temple, right in the corner, right next to the deity, literally altar, was the room of this Grihastha. He wanted to really be next to the deities like this and to his special master. Um, you know, somebody who earned everything, gave everything in the service of the Lord. Somebody who dedicated everything in the service of the Lord decades ago became affected when little opulence came to them. So handling material energy is not a cup of tea for everyone. It always leads to crisis. It always leads to crisis. We have a history here, and you look at history anywhere, it always leads to crisis, particularly when you're dealing with a lot of money exchanges, a lot of resources. Somehow it corrupts the consciousness. So how do we deal with it? We have to check with our authorities. Do I have the adhikar to handle so much what has been there? Then the next point was in this particular, because this is a very important discussion, is about reading too many books. So when Prabhupada said, when Srila Prabhupada Goswami talks about this point of reading too many books, it is often seen when we prematurely jump over Srila Prabhupada's writings and we try to enter into our Acharya's writings rather than appreciating Prabhupada's words and bringing us closer to Srila Prabhupada. Sometimes it takes us away. I'm not saying it's just a general rule, but unless we have really understood the mood, unless we have properly read Prabhupada books, then if we just for the sake of scholarship, just for the sake of presenting to the world how learned I am, it carries a big risk. So when it says reading too many books, although Prabhupada very clearly said we should read Acharya's books, but then there are conditions for it. First, read Prabhupada books, become well versed with Prabhupada's presentation, and then read. So that when we read Acharya's commentaries, then our appreciation for Srila Prabhupada's words would increase like that. That's the point about it here. There was another point. I'll make this and move forward to the next point. A disciple asked Srila Prabhupada, in ISKCON we make so many temples, at your time only you opened 108 temples. How do we understand this point? Sannyasi, and Prabhupada was personally involved. Juhu project, Mayapur project, Vrindavan project, in any and every project Prabhupada was personally involved because his disciples were young. They didn't have that level of maturity to deal with the challenges that Indian subcontinent offered to them. Prabhupada had to be personally involved. So disciple asked such and such questions, Swamiji or Prabhupada, how do we understand? And Prabhupada gave a very fantastic example. One should cut the coat according to one's size. समझे आप लोग? If somebody can wear a coat of particular size, does not mean that size will suit me. So one should understand one's adhikar, how much he can handle. And one should cut the coat according to one's size. So, in other words, I can handle. I can build not 100 temple, I can build 1,008 temples. So similarly, each one of us to understand, do we have the capacity? And then it can be done. That's a point here in this context of constructing many temples or reading many books. All right, let's move forward to the next point. 15th point. If anyone has at any point of time anything to add, you can please speak up. 15th point. Vaivahare api akarpanyam. Akarpanyam. Straightforward in ordinary dealings. Yeah, it's the same verse which is quoted here. Somebody would like to read from the book? Mother Shivani, your hand is up.
Hare Krishna Prabhupada. There is a statement in the Padma Purana: persons who are engaged in Krishna consciousness should never be disturbed by some material gain or loss. Even if there is some material loss, one should not be perturbed, but should always think of Krishna within himself. The purport is that every conditioned soul is always absorbed in thinking of materialistic activities. He has to free himself from such thoughts and transfer himself completely to Krishna consciousness. As we have already explained, the basic principle of Krishna consciousness is to always think of Krishna. One should not be disturbed in material loss, but rather should concentrate his mind upon the lotus feet of the Lord. A devotee should not be subject to lamentation or illusion. There is the following statement in the Padma Purana: within the heart of a person who
Very
is
important.
overpowered,
Pay attention. Within the heart.
within the heart of a
Mhm.
within the heart of a person who is overpowered by lamentation or anger, there is no possibility of Krishna's being manifested.
And Krishna himself says in various places in Bhagavad Gita, Sukhe Dukhe Samaya Kritva Labha Labho Jaya. This is just the second chapter. You'll find the similar statements in the sixth chapter in various places. All right. The next point is about Devatas, worship of Devatas. This was 16th, 17th, and 18th is about not disrespecting Devatas, and the 18th is about not inflicting pain to other living entities. All right, let's take a look at it. We'll read it out. Mother Kamalika, please read the next point, Devatas.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. The demigods. One should not neglect to offer due respect to the demigods. One may not be a devotee of demigods, but that does not mean that he should not be disrespectful to them. For
No,
example,
no, but that
a
does not
Vaishnava.
mean that he should be disrespectful. You accidentally said he should not be disrespectful.
Sorry, Prabhu.
Yes, go
For
ahead.
example, a Vaishnava is not a devotee of Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma, but he is duty bound to offer all respects to such highly positioned demigods. According to Vaishnava philosophy, one should offer respect even to an ant. So then, what is there to speak of such exalted persons as Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma? In the Padma Puran, it is said Krishna or Hari is the master of all demigods and therefore he is always worshipable. But this does not mean that one should not offer respect to the demigods.
In other words, when it is said Krishna should only be worshipped, it does not imply one should stop offering respect to other devatas. And why it is said? Because they are situated in those high positions by the blessings of the Lord to assist the Lord in his mission to maintain, this whole samsara chakra to make it happen. Therefore, they should always be offered respect. One should not become to another extremist idea that okay, Krishna is only the Lord, everyone else should be disregarded. Vaishnava does not treat or act like that. And then comes the last point in this particular chapter 7, the 18th point, right? Not giving pain to any living entity. That's a very interesting thing. Naveen Prabhu, go ahead, read the next one.
Hare Krishna Prabhu Dandapana.
Mhm.
So, not giving pain to any living entity. This is the statement of Mahabharata. A person who does not disturb or cause painful action in the mind of any living entity, who treats everyone just like a loving father does his children, whose heart is so pure, certainly, certainly very soon becomes favored by supreme personality of Godhead. In so-called civilized society, there is sometimes agitation against cruelty to animals, but at the same time, regular slaughterhouses are always maintained. A Vaishnava is not like that. A Vaishnava can never support animal slaughter or even give pain to any living entity.
Hare Krishna. So, not giving pain to any living entity. So, Prabhupada gives an example of violence about slaughterhouses, and then there's a statement of Mahabharata. One does not, who does not disturb or cause painful action in the mind of any living entity. What does it mean? One example is of violence, physical violence, slaughterhouse. Person who does not disturb or cause pain in the mind of any living entity. What does it mean? Not giving pain to any living
Many
entity.
people would,
Yes.
yeah, many people, not by action, but then they actually harass or disturb others mentally also. Like,
So how does it
Hurting
mean?
others
by,
by words.
yeah,
How,
no,
By
yeah,
not giving mental trauma.
all right. So Mother Shama Vallavi says
yeah.
use of harsh words. Yes. Criticism. Criticizing. We should not unnecessarily criticize. Now, this is such a profound thing. If you take a look at our writings of our acharyas, including of Srila Prabhupada, you will not find in general criticism of anyone. Only one entity who has been criticized, that has been ordained by Ishopanishad to dwell in the hellish planets, is Mayavadis. Ishopanishad very clearly says it's not even those who are karmis or non-believers. It's Mayavadis who just deny the existence of the Lord and call everyone as a god. For them, it is clearly mentioned. So only if you look at it, except for this particular group of people who subscribe to this philosophy, even if you look at it, it is largely the philosophy that has been targeted. You will not find any name of any Mayavadi being addressed in Prabhupada books. Yes or no? So now you may say, okay, what I'm trying to say here is, you may say, Prabhu, like you're saying in our acharyas, how do they handle criticism or how do they criticize? So we learn a very beautiful thing of how do they offer criticism. First of all, if any amount of criticism is offered, that criticism is offered not to a person but to a philosophy. Have you ever come across the name of any person in Prabhupada book? Falana Dikhana? Nowhere. There was one gentleman who said eggs are better than, our not eggs, eggplant is better than tulsi plant. Even to that gentleman, Prabhupada was respectful by not quoting his name. And those who knew, they understood who Prabhupada is talking about. The point is, because there was such an outrageous, insulting remark to Mother Tulsi, he said, what is the use of tulsi plant? Plant eggplant, at least you get some vegetable. Your tulsi plant doesn't even give you any fruit or any vegetable. Like that, he was joking and criticizing tulsi. So you will see this discussion actually going to come ahead when we talk in the next section about offenses. There are people of philosophies who would criticize Vaishnavas for different things. Like this particular gentleman who would criticize Vaishnava, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. Even for that reason, how did our acharyas handle that criticism? They never spoke about that person in a public forum. There could have been something in private discussion. And what had been criticized is not the conduct of that person, but his belief system in a philosophy. And that is how the criticism has been handled. So it's not that criticism is not there, but we can also learn the art of criticizing, as our acharyas have. There have been philosophical conflicts, a plenty of philosophical conflicts, even in our acharya's commentary. Once in a while, if you look at it, Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur would quote the name. He would quote the name in a context of telling that such an author have written such a book. And in that book, he is a leader of Mayavadis because he was very famous that time, or in the previous ages. And then he would say this has been said wrong, but without saying anything to a person. So yes, criticism is also there, but criticism is not directed to a person directly, but is towards the philosophy. So because why criticism is required? Just to protect the faith of one's followers or students. That is, in general, the rule is we should not criticize, but it does not mean we do not criticize the false philosophy. Otherwise, Prabhupada would not speak about Mayavadi so much. All right. So with this, we come to the conclusion of the seventh chapter, where the first 18 items were described. On the slide deck, please. Now we move to the eighth chapter, and the eighth chapter will speak about offenses. Eighth chapter discusses only the 19th item. This whole 8th chapter is only about one item that is called as 19th item, which is about aparad. And then Rupa Goswami talks about there are two categories of aparad. One is called as seva aparad, and second is called as nam aparad. And then Srila Rupa Goswami quotes Vara Puran and different places talking about different kinds of seva aparad. What things leads to seva aparad? And in the end, Padma Puran is quoted to highlight the 10 offenses, which for the first time was highlighted by Srila Sanatan Goswami in Hari Bhakti Vilas. So all these references come from Hari Bhakti Vilas in this book. Just to again highlight, Hari Bhakti Vilas is a compilation of verses for different devotional principles. So that acted as a reference book for our acharyas to compile, further books. Therefore, Sanatan Goswami's and Gopala Bhatta Goswami, that contribution is immense in the scholarly world. For regular practicing devotee, they may not understand what is this. Oh, not needed slide. Yeah, not needed to read Hari Bhakti Vilas, but who are interested into this, you'll find chapter after chapter with hundreds and hundreds of verses of the Puranas, Shastras. I mean, I'm just amazed when I was reading it. Well, how would have prepared it? So Sanatan Goswami was the one who initiated the whole thing, and who assisted him was Srila Gopala Bhatta Goswami. So this was a major contribution in the literary world, where they gave us a text or scripture where you can go and look into all these principles, and you have Shastric Praman. And in NOI, text number 5, 6, and 7, we discussed a lot from Hari Bhakti Vilas, because those things have been discussed. Of course, we can discuss this thing also, but it will become voluminous. So we're not going in those details, but that's where things are coming. All right. So we'll pause for a quick break here, and we'll come back and look into the 19th item, which is called as Aparad, Seva Aparad, and Nam Aparad. And I'll share some interesting incidents from the life of Srila Prabhupada and his disciples in a context of Seva Aparad and Aparad. And then chapter 9th will begin with the 20th item called as blasphemy. And then other items will continue, which is closely connected with criticism, as what we discussed right now. We'll explain that time. And we'll see how much of our 9th chapter we can cover. We'll cover that, or else we'll continue in the next session. So that